Chapter 5. Green in every sense of the word. The next day, I dug out my list. It was the list, really. The one I had used to, or tried to, pick my starter Pokemon. I read the whole thing out loud to Des, watching carefully for any sign of a reaction. There weren't any. It didn't occur to me that he might not know what any of those species were. If I, an 11-year-old kid, knew them, I thought that he ought to know them too. Professional courtesy, you know? Of course, the grass Pokemon on the list were few and far between. I hadn't realized how much I had leaned towards the better types, or more offensive anyway, until then. Tangela. That was it. Tangela was the only grass Pokemon that I knew of that I liked, barring evolutions. That gave me an entire new array of problems. I did have a soft spot for Victory Bell, but that meant I would have to train a Bellsprout up 2 evolutions. I didn't have that kind of time. There was also the grass evolution of Eevee, but again, it was an evolution, and Eevee were rare and expensive anyway. Come to think of it, Tangela weren't exactly running around everywhere either. I hung my head in defeat. If it weren't for Pedestal, I actually might have seriously entertained stealing a Pokemon. In addition to not being an expert, I'm also not a saint. I didn't have the time or patience to deal with some lame baby grass Pokemon, especially if it was one I was unfamiliar with. I didn't want to get saddled with something that didn't evolve into sheer awesome. A Trico might be kind of cool, I mumbled to myself, trying to yank the elusive second Pokemon down from its mental pedestal. No such luck. I wanted a cool Pokemon, and I would get one. A Trico would not do. None of the grass starters were really that strong either until their second or third evolution. I don't have time for this! Growling and huffing, I jumped to my feet, grabbed my stuff, and turned to Pedestal. He merely tilted his head to one side, offering nothing. Come on, Des. We're going on a grass hunt. I don't care if it takes us years or spans continents, I am getting that grass Pokemon! Maybe my words were a little rash and untrue. I didn't intend on spending years hunting for a specific Pokemon, nor did I want to go on a world travel trip. I just really wanted this search to be over so the good training could begin. Des and I first headed back to Jubilife City. It was a fairly large city, after all, and was the television capital of the country. There could be advertisements for breeders selling grass Pokemon. I could get lucky. There certainly was some sort of luck with us that day. We weren't in the city for 10 minutes before a battle successfully halted us. No, we weren't challenged, and we didn't challenge anyone. If anything, we were simple, innocent bystanders caught in the crossfire. A pair of trainers were battling just outside the Pokemon Center. One was a girl, probably just a few years older than me, and the other was a boy, probably about the same age. It looked as if the battle had just started. The girl, black hair pinned to the back of her head and auburn eyes flashing, shouted, "Dewdrop! Ice Fang!" The Croconaw in front of her jumped forward and sunk its teeth into its opponent, some sort of green, four-legged Pokemon with a large flower on its back. The other Pokemon gave a yelp of distress, trying to shake it off, but to no avail. "Chill, Holly. Use a Razor Leaf," the male trainer said. He seemed utterly relaxed, whereas the other trainer was stomping her foot in frustration. The green Pokemon, a grass Pokemon, I realized with some glee, let out a barrage of sharp leaves right into the Croconaw's mouth and face. It let go immediately, clawed paws flying to its face. "Water Gun!" The grass Pokemon jumped out of the way, but the irate Croconaw doggedly followed it. By now, more than just Des and I were watching, so we continually had to push and shove to get back to the front. I didn't want to miss this battle. Not only was it pretty cool to watch, but it had a grass Pokemon. It seemed strong, and it looked really cool, too. I needed to find out what it was. The grass Pokemon still dodged, further annoying the water one, and its trainer. Dewdrop, use Water Pulse! The Croconaw nodded and jumped in the air, landing with a splash, though there was no water. Just then. It created its own puddle, which grew until it was a small wave, heading out in a perfect circle from it. The grass Pokemon looked right and left, worried, and was finally hit. It tumbled over, trying to get back up, but its flat feet prevented it from getting much traction on the slick concrete. Most of the crowd was backing up, too. The water attack didn't end with it finding its target. It was only knee-high, though, so there wasn't much panic. Except for Pedestal and I. With an undignified squeak, I hastily bent down to pick him up, only to find that he weighed much, much more than he looked. My jeans and shoes were soaked by the attack. It hurt more when I fell over with Des landing on top of me than from the actual water pulse. Still, my Nummel was still conscious, which was good. Even if we were next to a center, I didn't want either of us to miss the potential partner. Des, get off! He immediately waddled off of me, and much-needed oxygen flowed back into my body. I sat up, groaning, not only because of the bruise that probably left, but because the wet ground did a pretty good job of making it look like I had just got pushed into a pool. Mel, Des said happily, headbutting me. He was either laughing at me or thanking me, I wasn't sure which. Say, Des, what do you think of that grass Pokemon there? It's pretty cool, isn't it? No. I'm serious, we need to get one. No, Mol. He was eyeing the grass Pokemon, who had retaliated against the Croconaw by putting it to sleep and was still sliding around awkwardly on the wet ground, with what appeared to be disdain. Of course, with a lidded expression like he usually wore, it could have been love at first sight. I might have been open to the fact that he had emotions, but it didn't mean I knew what they were. The battle ended when the Croconaw woke up and planted an Ice Fang on the grass Pokemon's flower just as it released another barrage of razor-sharp leaves. It was a double knockout. The crowd slowly dispersed, but only the non-trainers left right away. The veterans stayed behind to congratulate the two on a good battle, whereas the younger, newer trainers stood by awkwardly to ogle the trainers with open awe and admiration. So, you done being angry now? The boy trainer asked of his female opponent. She crossed her arms and looked away from him with a huff. Come on, Brenna, lighten up. Only a few trainers were left once the crowd figured out that the battle had started over a personal dispute. Those were usually best left alone. I was not deterred, however, and marched straight up to the blonde boy. Pedestal stayed a safe distance behind me, still wary of the Croconaw, even if it was unconscious. He only ventured closer when the girl returned it. Excuse me. Both of them turned to me expectantly. I hesitated, but then steeled myself. If I didn't find out the identity of that grass Pokemon, I might be stuck as a skittish, wary of water trainer for the rest of my life. What was that grass Pokemon you used? Another greenhorn, huh? The boy remarked, grinning lazily. I thought that was Cora's nickname, the girl said scathingly before I could reply. Well, it's more of a title, really, and she's been training long enough not to... Excuse me, the Pokemon? Personal disputes were not one to get mixed up in the Pokemon world, even if it was accidentally. I already felt uncomfortable being called a greenhorn, whatever that was, and listening to the girl's snappish comments. That's all I want to know. Is that your Nummel? The boy asked, once again not answering my question. He nodded down to Pedestal, who was pressed up against my wet jeans, watching them all guardedly. No wonder you want a grass Pokemon. Sorry, kid, but Holly's not up for sale or trade. I didn't want to offer, I said hotly, madder at not thinking of trading before rather than his assumption. I just wanted to know the species of, Holly. Oh, is that all? Yet again, he had not answered me. He rubbed the back of his head. Ivysaur, second evolution of Bulbasaur, Greenhorn. Good luck finding one in Sinnoh, though. They're pretty rare in these parts. You'd be better off catching a native grass Pokemon. The problem was I didn't want a native grass Pokemon. They all sucked. Still, I had a name to work with now and knew that they were from Kanto. Almost as importantly, I had now been reminded of the prospect of a trade. Maybe I could catch a Pokemon from around here and trade it for a Bulbasaur or an Ivysaur with the GTS or something. An Ivysaur did need to be evolved though, which was a bit off-putting. Still, it seemed worth it, and it wasn't as if I had many other choices to choose from. Thanks, but I think I'll try tracking down an Ivysaur. I started to back away, mostly because of the evil glare the girl had turned on the boy. Their argument was far from over with, and the battle didn't appear to have done much to help. Pedestal had stuck himself so firmly to my leg, though, that I managed to trip, falling down for the second time because of him. The older trainers both laughed, offering to help me up. I had my pride, though, and slunk off with Des and his Pokeball before more misfortune could befall me. An Ivysaur, huh? I could do that. I either needed to buy one from someone, if they were the evolution of a Kanto starter, it couldn't be that expensive, right? Or catch something to use as trade fodder. I felt a bit better about the first choice, though, since it didn't entail a third wheel, so to speak. No, Des said blandly, twitching his round ears. Yeah, let's go. We need to find an Ivysaur. The Ivysaur was then placed precariously on its lofty pedestal as we merrily went into the center.